we wish as government to ventilate or pronounce ourselves on a number of issues that we deem important for the nation to have understanding of the clear stance of government, so that as a people and as a nation, we are moving together at all times. Let me begin here by indicating that in the next few minutes, the President of the Republic of Zambia, President Hakainde Hichilema, will be touching down on the copper belt for a very important function for the commissioning of the construction of 2 deep shafts at Lobambe mines, which is a very important activity for the copper belt and for the economy of our country, given the importance of copper production and the targets the President has set to aim to produce at least 3 million tons of copper, so that at those levels we become really competitive as a copper producing and reliant economy. Let me also indicate here, secondly, that the issues we want to talk about today will basically be, one, the issue that is taking center stage on some social media platforms, including the international social media and mainstream media outlets, relating to a video or an audio that has been circulating in the last few days, purporting to be containing information that is as a result of the actions and or statements taken and or made by the head of state of Zambia, the President Hakainde Hichilema, relating to a call for refund by Western countries of visa funds that Zambians and Africans have been paying to them. We also cascade down to talk about constitutional amendment proposals and the comments that are arising from society. We will also be able to speak about the CDF ambulances that were given a target that by May 2025 they should have been delivered. Apparently not yet the case. Let me, therefore, before I come to the first issue to do with the audio, indicate to the nation and the citizens, particularly the farmers, that yesterday at our briefing we did inform the farming community and the citizenry at large that on Monday, 1st June 2025, President Hakainde Hichilema, as a farmer, will be auctioning bulls at his Choma farm. I want the nation to know, particularly the farming community, that that particular auction has been brought forward to Sunday and not Monday. It has been brought forward to Sunday and not Monday, starting at 10 hours. So, as the auction for the bulls will be taking place Sunday, starting 10 hours, the presidential worship program with the Brethren in Christ Church, BIC, at Choma Secondary School remains as announced yesterday. The auction of the bulls will not affect the president going to attend the worship, because he is not the one in person who will be conducting the auction at that particular moment, because that will be conducted by his team, his people at the farm. He will, after the worship with the BIC church, be able to attend that particular auction. So do not be left out. Do not come on Monday. You will find that the bulls and the auction were actually sold, and that auction took place the day before. So take that as the current position relating to that very important issue, where the president seeks to empower farmers with breeding stock as he auctions bulls. Now, let me come to the main issue for today, that as government of the Republic of Zambia, we have taken note that a video and or audio is circulating on social media and now being quoted and referred to across the globe, particularly the Western countries, where, as contained in that video and or audio, there is a statement which purports that the President for the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, has issued statements and or taken a stand against the Western jurisdictions relating to refund of visa fees that have been paid. So, I wish to indicate that President Hakainde Hichilema did not demand visa refunds from the EU and the UK. Over the past several days, both continental mainstream and social media platforms have been inundated with reports alleging that His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema has demanded that the European Union and the United Kingdom refund visa application fees for all rejected Zambian applicants. These claims have gained particular traction on several international platforms. While we do appreciate that those sharing and endorsing these claims or assertions may be motivated by genuine concerns about the financial burden faced by visa applicants, the government of the Republic of Zambia wishes to categorically clarify that at no time has the head of state for Zambia, President Hakainde Hichilema, or any government official representative of the Zambian government made such a statement and or demand. We respectfully, therefore, urge the public to exercise caution and verify information through credible and official channels before treating it as fact. As government, we remain committed to upholding our diplomatic engagements with all our international partners in a spirit of mutual respect and cooperation in order to deepen our already warm and existing policies of good neighborliness and also deepening international diplomatic relations that have seen new heights under the leadership of President Hakainde Hichilema, and we want that to continue to be the case as we push to open new diplomatic and economic frontiers to take our country and our continent and the globe, the entire globe, to the next levels of international diplomacy anchored on economic cooperation. Let me now turn to the issue of the Constitution amendment that has taken center stage in national debate in our country. The government is closely monitoring the engagement of the citizens and their participation relating to the proposed, targeted and limited 13 constitutional amendments that have gone out in circulation by the promulgation of Bill number 7 of 2025, a bill intended to be presented to the National Assembly of Zambia for possible ratification or possible endorsement by the National Assembly to effectuate or cause certain clauses and articles in the Constitution as contained in the bill, no more or less than that which has been contained or be expressly codified in Bill 7 of 2025. We have, as government, therefore, taken note that there are demands by some civil society organizations for government to withdraw Bill 7. Action Aid, for instance, has demanded that Bill 7 should be withdrawn forthwith and advises government not to use arrogance to amend and or manipulate the country's constitution and, in their words, as construed by ourselves, aimed at giving the UPND undue advantage in 2026 and or during the 2026 general elections. I wish, on behalf of government, to urge such civil society organizations to consider coming up with refined proposed provisions to the draft bill. We appeal to civil society to draft alternative provisions so that they are able to mirror their thoughts with that which they can put on the table as better than what the government is proposing through Bill 7. Current cause, therefore, to withdraw Bill 7, asking the government so to do, would be tantamount to throwing the child with bathwater. I want to reiterate here that government, from the inception and or conceptualization of the idea to amend certain articles and clauses in the current Constitution, has made it very clear and categorical that these are proposals. And the 13 proposals have gone out there for people to input their views and ideas. And as government, we're cognizant of the fact that who support amendments of the Constitution to enhance women representation, to enhance youth representation, to enhance differently abled representation in the National Assembly, and also to do with the issue relating to coming up with a law that deals with the wastage of public resources that always comes with by-elections, many of which are caused unnecessarily. The nation may wish to know that in the last 3 years, the country has lost more than 300 million kwacha worth of by-elections, 99% of which have been conducted at local government level, with councillors resigning, many of whom were employed in the public service, but initially they had gone for positions as civic leaders, primarily because their academic qualification was not leading them to their desired destination, because for many years after graduation, they remained on the streets without being employed. Now, under the leadership of the New Dawn administration of President Hakainde Hichilema, there is a renewed sense of hope, where more than 100,000 young people have been employed in just about 3.5 years, creating a genuine sense of hope in those who had despaired and become disillusioned that their academic qualification will not give them the platform to exercise their skill set acquired through their academic achievement. That is why more than 90% of the by-elections we've witnessed in the last 3.5 years or so have been triggered by those councillors who have resigned their civic position because they've been employed in government. And again, we must take note here that those people were not enticed by government to resign their civic elected positions to join the public service. Rather, it is because government is employing, in line with the electoral commitment of President Hakainde Hichilema, on merit-based selection, meritocracy, that those who qualify by way of academic qualification are the ones who get employed without preference, without discrimination, without segregation. And so it is that those who were civic leaders, who were councillors, when they applied, they were not discriminated against on account of them being councillors, because the government is aware that a councillor position is a limited tenure in opposition to occupy. It is contractual in nature by the electorates, and 5 years contract is the tenure that subsists under those kind of arrangements. And therefore, to shut the door for those who were elected as councillors not to be employed in the civil service would be discriminatory and also depriving citizens of an opportunity, particularly the young people, to ply a trade for which they went to school to get a skill set. Now, I have to bring this to the attention of the nation, that which I have just said, because some people are saying, but why in the first place did you cause these by-elections? The government recruitment system is blind to political affiliation. It is not like it was before, that those who were councillors who needed to become teachers and or any other public service job for which they were qualified were urged and or asked to resign in exchange for political gratification. That kind of arrangement now belongs to history. Employment now is merit-based. That is the reason why it is important, as contained in in Bill 7, that such kind of by-elections that are caused in this manner, that on the face of it, it is patently and manifestly that it is not important to cause such a by-election and consequently cause the taxpayer to expend money. There must be a way at law to deal with those kind of situations, so that that money, which is always wasted through by-elections or expended, as the case may be, can be channeled towards needy areas such as provision of free education, provision of meal allowances to students at public universities, making available funds for CDF under the enhanced CDF program in order to carry out CDF-related programs as envisaged by government, that CDF is the #1 development flagship career program of government throughout the country, particularly the rural areas, which for most of the time that we have been independent as a nation, have just heard about decisions that government makes remotely from the center for their benefit. So it is expedient and necessary that, and as deemed by the members of parliament, that by-elections should be treated in a way that they should not cause unnecessary expense to the taxpayer, unless under those circumstances. That is what Bill 7 is all about. And throwing such ideas to say you withdraw Bill 7 is something which is undemocratic in its nature. Because by government providing a platform for citizens to comment on Bill 7, it is democratic in nature. Let me also take this opportunity to indicate that President Hakainde Hichilema seeks in no way to bolster his chance of re-election on the basis of the passage of Bill 7. Because there is nothing contained in this Bill 7 that speaks to interference of the elections of 2026. There is nothing in this bill that creates a political the elections of 2026. In fact, as a matter of reality, those who are coming up with such assertions are just but being economical with the truth. Because take, I think 1036, for instance, which talks about withdrawal of a candidate once nominations have already been filed in, but before the presidential and general election takes place. That particular provision, as it is now, if left unchecked, actually gives advantage, in a way, to a sitting president. Because a sitting president, if it is a president like not the one we have who means well, can take advantage of that if he or she sees that the chances of being re-elected are becoming bleak. Because then they can cause one of the candidates to withdraw, and therefore the presidential election is thrown into jeopardy. That is to say, fresh nominations have to take place, which now will cause a constitutional crisis, given that the day of elections for a president and members of parliament, mayors, council chairpersons, and councillors is defined in the Constitution to be the Thursday of the second week of August of the election year. That is to say, 5 years from the previous year when the general elections were last held. Now, President HH, in addressing Parliament, did allude to the fact that that provision, which he referred to as a lacuna, or a provision with interpretation that is varied, that is to say, can give rise to various interpretations. He proposed that let us deal with this issue, because in the event of a candidate withdrawing, there is an imminent constitutional crisis standing right in front of our eyes. And it is only expedient and necessary and prudent to deal with that issue, because a good law, particularly a constitution, should be predictable to ensure that the citizens know beforehand that should a particular circumstance or set of circumstances arise, they know exactly how them as citizens stand in relation to the law, knowing very well how the judiciary will adjudicate on that matter with certainty and not uncertainty, as the case presently is. How, therefore, can someone who means well for the good governance of this country, for the good administration of this country, say that President HH wants to use Bill 10 to enhance his chances of being re-elected? I think that kind of thinking, that kind of assertion should be vacated, because it is destitute of logic and patently and manifestly merit. Because when you look at contents of Bill 10, none of them seeks to and/or has tendency to tamper with electoral. The issue to do with delimitation is a constitutional requirement that the ECZ has to look into the issue of delimitation. The last delimitation recommendations and exercise was conducted in the year 2019 and was not effectuated, meaning therefore that we have gone full cycle 10 years without, if my memory serves me right, without having the ECZ delimiting wards and constituencies for purposes of meeting a constitutional requirement in terms of this particular constitution. So, delimitation is a constitutional requirement. That is the only provision in this particular bill which relates to elections for which one may contest that it is bordering on the Constitution. And the powers by the ECZ are contained under Article 58 in terms of constituencies, wards, and delimitation. This particular matter is a constitutional matter as contained under Article 58. And so the citizens, I'll read it quickly so that some of the issues we're arguing about should be put to rest so that we concentrate on the material issues that are of consequence to national development. And national development in the sense that a good law is the foundation upon which national development has to and takes off from. Article 58, constituencies, wards, and delimitation. Zambia shall be divided into constituencies and wards for purposes of elections to the National Assembly and councils respectively. 58, Sub-Article 2, the number of constituencies shall be equal to the number of seats of elected members in the National Assembly. 3, the number of wards in the district shall be prescribed. 4, the Electoral Commission shall determine the names and boundaries of constituencies and wards. Sub-Article 6 of Article 58, the Electoral Commission shall, at intervals of not more than 10 years, review the names and boundaries of constituencies and wards. This is where the particular proposed provision, not more than 10 years, review the names and boundaries of constituencies and wards. So, if this is not done, again, someone will stand up and say the new Dawn administration is violating the Constitution because it's a constitutional provision. And that is why it is the ECZ recommend interesting submissions. I was listening to Hot FM this morning, which featured a prominent lawyer, Linda Kasonde. And I have a lot of respect to Senior Counsel Linda Kasonde. And I would like to indicate here expressly that the views she expressed and has expressed on Hot FM and other media platforms before are views that we respect in terms of her enjoying her fundamental rights to speech and expression, but may not be representative, and as the case is presently, are not representative of the truth. Because she, like others who oppose the constitutional amendment, have alleged that when you look at proposed Article 7 of the Bill 7 relating to the composition of the National Assembly, and particularly now talking about proportional representation. If this particular law is passed, then we, as a country, will have a National Assembly with the least members of Parliament who are female, because we are placing a cap that only 20 women can go to the National Assembly. Let me again quickly read the provisions of Article 7 of Bill number 7 of 2027, which is a proposal. The Constitution is amended by the repeal of Article 68 and the substitution thereof of the following. Article 68. The National Assembly shall consist: A, 211 members of Parliament directly elected on the basis of a simple majority vote and the first past the post electoral system in accordance with Article 47(2)(a), which is the current Article 42(7)(a), and quickly I'll cross-reference that for ease of understanding. Article 47(2)(a) states that, Article 47(2)(a), elections to the National Assembly shall be conducted under the first past the post electoral system in accordance with Article 68. Now, let me just proceed to make the point as intended this morning, that what appears to be a controversy relating to this particular proposed amendment, which in terms of Article 7(b) of this particular bill, Bill number 7, it says, not more than 20 women elected on the basis of the proportional representation electoral system in accordance with Article 47(2)(b) as prescribed. Now, I want to break it into simpler terms, because we are talking to citizens who need to understand with simplicity what the government are talking about through these proposals. What is being talked about here is that there will be, as proposed, 20, not more than 20 women who will be elected under a system as prescribed. Now, here is a scenario for ease of reference. The government envisages that to have affirmative action coming by way of election, you need to have women competing against women. There should be a provision for seats where only women will compete against women. There should also be a provision where only youth shall compete against youth. There should also be a provision where the differently abled only will compete against themselves, so that those seats, although coming through adult suffrage in terms of elections, are safeguarded and guaranteed that whoever emerges victorious will be representative of that category whose numbers right now in Parliament are plummeted due to the competitive nature of first past the post and simple majority election system, which has been the system that has produced elected officials to the local authorities and/or National Assembly. Now, someone will be asking, how shall this be done? It shall be prescribed in an Act of Parliament. But the simplicity with which it goes is simply to reference that to what currently obtains in terms of electing a mayor. Let me give an example of a mayor for Lusaka City Council and the mayor for Kitwe City Council. The mayor for Lusaka City Council, Madam Chitangala, appears on all the 7 constituencies, a ballot on all the 7 constituencies of Lusaka district reflect the candidature of a mayor. And whoever gets a simple majority of those elections where the mayor is contesting in all the 7 constituencies becomes the mayor. Just like it is for Chipata, just like it is for Solwezi, just like it is for Ndola, just like it is for Kabwe, just like it is for Choma. Choma has 2 constituencies, Choma Central and Babala. The mayor for Choma contests both in Choma Central and in Babala. And whoever gets the vote through simple majority becomes the mayor. So one can win in Choma Central and lose in Babala. But if through simple majority you are the one who has taken the day, despite the fact that you lost in one constituency, and as the case may be now in other jurisdictions or districts, you will still become the mayor. That is how Madam Chitangala, mayor for Lusaka, is mayor. She may not have, and actually she didn't win all the constituencies of Lusaka. For instance, she lost badly in Kanyama constituency. But she's a mayor. So similarly, to have women representatives, the government is envisaging a situation where, for instance, since there are 20 being proposed, 20 women, what is the idea before? Is to have 2 women seats representing women in each of the 10 provinces of the country. Therefore, if you are standing to be a woman representative representing Muchinga, it means that there will be, say, 7 or 10 contestants for the Muchinga female seat, Muchinga province female seat, and the top 2 in those elections who will be voted in the like manner that we vote for mayors go to parliament to represent the Muchinga quota. Similarly, Northwestern. Similarly, here, Southern Province, we have 19 constituencies. We can have 20 female contestants seeking to be the 2 MP female representatives of this province in the National Assembly. And in the 19 constituencies, you may win in 10, you lose in 9. But the aggregate votes through simple majority, the first 2 will be the female representatives at parliament. That is meant to give fairness. And those seats will be guaranteed because only female candidates will contest against each other in the like manner that youth and differently abled will contest against each other. Now, Zambians, surely, how can that be said to be frightening than butane? Something as simple as that, something which guarantees that women, youth, and differently abled come through to parliament. And the idea there of coming through the ballot or that system is to ensure that they carry authority of mandate of being elected, unlike being accused that you just went to parliament because you are a woman. You just went to parliament because you are a youth. You just went to parliament because you are different abled. They will have a full mandate. The same way a mayor has a mandate despite being elected through many constituencies, yet a member of parliament is elected through one particular constituency. So we have heard and taken note of those concerns that this is limiting the number of women, for instance, who will be in the National Assembly. I have just elucidated that that is not the case, and also to indicate that these are just protected seats, because we have seen over time that women, youth, and different abled are being disadvantaged, particularly in the last general elections, which were marred by politics of violence, politics of insults, politics of pangas, where women and youth and differently abled could not compete. That election we saw was also marred with a lot of vote buying, particularly to do with those who had money and power at that time. You saw how people were made to line up for money, for brown envelopes. Now, where would a female candidate, a youth, or a different able get the resources to marshal a defense to contest in those elections that were that competitive in terms of vote buying? And truth be said, you needed stamina. Here in Choma, because I want to drive the point home, when the election campaign started, all football teams were receiving handsome amounts of money from candidates of the ruling party. Every funeral, a ruling party candidate was giving 5,000 kwacha. Every funeral. Every women meeting, they were receiving 5,000 kwacha. Every youth meeting, if you wanted 5,000 kwacha in 2021, just call a meeting and inform the political arena that we have a meeting. There was a 5,000 kwacha reserved for you. Now imagine in 3 months how many funerals were in Choma Central constituency, and each funeral receiving 5,000 kwacha. And the people know that we had to work extra hard. We did not match up that financial challenge, but we matched up by going out to the people with a strong message and anchored on tenacity and endurance. How many women and youth and different abled can manage that? That is what the Constitution seeks, these proposals, constitutional amendments, seek to achieve. Now, one point has to be made very clear here, that these reserved seats will not be for UPND, that to contest, only UPND will contest again on that particular day, like councillors, like mayors, like MPs and the presidents. So, we have heard allegations that no, President HH wants to create an inbuilt majority in Parliament. That is not, that kind of argument cannot be supported, because these women, youth, and differently abled representatives will come from all the 10 provinces of this country. And they will not be chosen by UPND, but the electorates, as the system may be prescribed, will be the ones who will decide who and which political affiliation will be representing them in the category as outlined. So let's get these things right and straight, and should not give room to those who are opposing constitutional amendment. Please, those opposing constitutional amendments, let us talk facts, not misinformation. If you are opposing constitutional amendments, do not fish for issues that you can't justify and present them to be a real threat. We know that there are those who are opposing this amendment just purely because they are opposing government, and also in furtherance of the enjoyment of their democratic rights of freedom of expression and speech. We can't take away that from you, but don't be purveyors of misinformation and disinformation. Do not give information which is not true to citizens, because the citizens may begin to labor on information which is misleading. The correct position is what I have stated here. So, once more, President Hakainde Hichilema's re-election in 2026 will not be influenced with and dependent upon constitutional amendments, whether they go through or not. President HH will be elected on the basis of his performance relating to the electoral commitments that he made before he went into office and those that he has delivered upon, and also considering that those remaining outstanding are work in progress, that after his re-election in 2026, he will definitely be able to work on them towards fruition in the like manner that he has undoubtedly delivered, much even to the expectation of those who were saying that this is mere politicking. The time for mere politicking is over. It is time now to promise, walk the talk, change the economy and the livelihoods of our people so that our country can never be the same again going forward. So that issue, we need to rest that issue of constitutional consent. Let me wind up on the issue now relating to CDF. We have heard, and yesterday we saw a challenge thrown at the Permanent Secretary, Technical Services for the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, my colleague, my friend, the PS Nicholas Piri, who was called upon to resign in accordance with his promise that he had made that ambulances would arrive. The CDF ambulances would arrive in or before the end of the month of May. And that now that that particular month is coming to an end, is he considering resignation to keep alive with his promise? And as government, it is not our duty to comment on issues of this nature, because the commitment which was made by the PS was made in his personal capacity. He said he, as an individual, would resign. He did not say government will resign. He said him as an individual. So it was a personal undertaking for which, as governments, we were not privy to. But we are compelled to respond to that particular matter or join its discourse, because been challenged that as government we must pronounce ourselves on this particular resignation matter, and that government should come out in the open to apologize that now that the CDF ambulances have not arrived as promised by the PS, government must apologize to the citizens, and that that is what should be the case. Well, government did not commit that the PS will resign. It was a personal undertaking, responsibility for the things we have said. And so, for those things that we have not committed, we may not be drawn. So, in terms of the law of, the law of contract, we are not privy to that contract which PS made with the citizens of this country. But I wish to indicate that the government systems are fully at work in terms of ensuring that the CDF ambulances, get to arrive, because that is an expenditure of taxpayers' money, and the government systems are ensuring that all processes material to ensuring that the law is followed in terms of all procurements are followed, have and must be followed. Otherwise, that is the situation as the case is presently. I think that is where we get to end, but I'll end on the note of thanking all our citizens and all our governments on the continent that supported the candidature of Dr. Maimbo for the Africa Development Bank top job, for which he did not make it and came out second in that particular election. And we further want to thank Dr. Maimbo for making himself available to save not just country, but also the continent of Africa. We shall continue to rely on the support of the citizens at large as President Hakainde Hichilema continues to steer the country to a better destination, economic country, Zambia. Good day. What's your number, Mike? 0977